And only wondering, not because, well, when you pray out loud, then, oh, well, the devil can hear your prayer. And so, well, no, because the devil is not as powerful as God is. But let's say when you have bad thoughts, right, the more you give light to your bad thoughts, the more you're giving the chance for them to be true. And so in that sense, it's kind of the more that I give light to my bad thoughts, I'm giving the chance for the devil to make those things true. Whereas
well, so that part of that's definitely the case. Okay, so when, and we should maybe close with this. This is actually a stellar sort of example. Okay, so in the story of Cain and Abel, Cain makes second-rate sacrifices. That means his work is not good. It means more than that. He knows it too. He offers what's second best to God. And that doesn't work. And it doesn't work because life is so difficult that if you offer what's second rate, yeah, that's just not going to work for you. And so Abel offers what's first rate. And as a consequence, Abel is very successful, whereas Cain hedges his bets. And he is a failure in consequence. And instead of learning from that and straightening up, he doubles down and becomes bitter and resentful. And enough so that he then challenges God. And he basically says something like, what kind of world did you make where my sacrifices are being rejected and I suffer? And God says, if you did well, you would be accepted. Now, this is not what Cain wants to hear, because anyone who's failing voluntarily, the last thing they want to hear is that it's their fault. They want to hear that it's God's fault, or society's fault, or someone else's fault. Anyways. So God just dispenses with that right away. He says, if you did well, you'd be accepted. Okay, but then he says something else, and this is devastating. This is actually why Cain goes and kills Abel. It's devastating, because it's even more the last thing you want to hear. He says, you failed. But that's not all. You failed, and then as a consequence, you were tempted by something that sat on your doorstep. You were tempted by the spirit of sin. And it sat on your doorstep like a sexually aroused, predatory animal, and you invited it in to have its way with you. And so what he means is you're failing, you're hurt, and maybe that's even understandable, but then you went the next step. That failure and hurt you used that failure and hurt to justify your dalliance with the spirit of resentment and rebellion. You invited it in. You had a relationship with it. You nurtured it. You did something creative with it. You let it grow inside you. And that's why you're in the situation that you're in. And Cain he leaves that conversation, and he is not happy. And that's when he offers to Abel the opportunity to work with him and kills him in the field. Right? And then Cain's descendants are, well, there are a variety of people, but one of his descendants is the first person who builds weapons of war. Right? So it's not just, so Cain is murderous, but his descendants are warlike and genocidal. So that's another lesson from that story, is that's where that genocidal spirit comes from, that bitter resentment.
Like genetically?
That's a hard question. We'll say no for now.
Okay.
Well, developmentally anyway, sociologically, right? I mean, the idea in that story is that the psychological cause of the degeneration of societies into genocidal mobs is the resentment that's engendered as a consequence of rejected sacrifices. But more than that, and then the invitation of that spirit within in a creative manner. Well, the Nazis were no shortage of creative in their genocidal brutality.
Well, everybody took from their page.